A polling nightmare is shocking the Democrat Party to its core. Socialism is cratering with the American public, all as the Democrats are more and more embracing it. And it's causing a number of lifelong Democrats to say, enough, we're done, we're gone. Stick them at the very end of this video because we're going to break down a brand new wave of polls showing socialism cratering with the American public and precisely why one lifelong Democrats party switch is the canary in the coal mine for a Democrat civil war that's about to blow up right in their face. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you make sense of the madness. With breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else, so you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, if you are new to this channel, don't leave it up to YouTube's algorithm to show you my next video. Sign up for our Patriot Alerts, my free newsletter, and get my commentary straight to your inbox every day. Links below, just takes 10 seconds, and you're all signed up. This past Tuesday, Democrats in the state of Michigan decided to double down on their latest absurd insanity by nominating the radical socialist Abdul El-Sayed for the U.S. Senate. But the key term here is just barely. El-Sayed's win was hardly something to celebrate. He beat the Democrats' establishment candidate Haley Stevens, but by just 1%, literally barely. He dramatically underperformed his polls, and he wasn't even able to crack 50% of the vote. It was a bruising primary that left this radical socialist bloody, broke, and bitterly divisive. Now, what's so key here is that this is inside the Democrat Party. That bruising, right? That bruising is happening inside a political party that is going through a very real civil war right now. It's a battle for its soul, and it's a battle between the establishment or the more traditional Democrats represented by the likes of John Fetterman and James Carville and Van Jones and Bill Maher versus the new Democratic Socialists of America wing represented by Mamdani and El-Fayed and Ilhan Omar and Crazy Katie in Seattle, who are all winning all of these primaries. And one of the major arguments that the traditional win is making, like James Carville and Bill Maher, is that there is no possible way that this radical socialist wing can win national elections. It's a mathematic impossibility. And as such, the Democrats, to the extent that they embrace this radical wing, are consigning themselves to the dustbin of history. The Democrats will simply no longer be a viable national party. And we're now getting a series of polls back to back that show that these concerns among traditional Democrats are absolutely valid. For example, a brand new Washington Post Ipsos poll just dropped this week, and it's an absolute disaster for the socialist wing of the Democrat Party. 55% of Americans say they would not even consider voting for a Democrat socialist president. They wouldn't even consider it as compared to 39% who said they would. But here's where it gets interesting. When you break those numbers down by party, you see exactly why this is a Democrat problem and nobody else's. 88% of Republicans say absolutely not. 54% of independents say no, but 75% of Democrats say they're actually open to it. They're actually open to voting for a Democrat socialist for president. That's not a fringe faction anymore inside the Democrat Party. That's a full-blown identity crisis. Now, again, as we just saw in Michigan, not all of the 75% is ready to go there, but they are saying they're open. They're the ones who will most likely vote for El-Sayed in the general, even though they didn't in the primary. So this is something that's very specific to the Democrat Party, and these are sentiments that are not shared by the vast majority of independents and, of course, not Republicans. And it's not just one poll. That was the Washington Post. The Washington Times has broke down Reuters Ipsos numbers showing 51% of all adults say Democrat socialist leaders have, quote, few or almost no good ideas. But flip it to registered Democrats only, and 53% say they actually think these guys have good ideas. So again, you could see, You can see a kind of double split forming here. Nearly half the Democrats in this poll are very concerned about this rise of socialism in their own party. All the while, the rest of the country is splitting away from this stuff entirely. So you kind of got this double split going on. But here's a number that should terrify every Democrat strategist watching the 2028 map. An Echelon Insights poll found socialism sitting at a negative 29 net favorability with the general public. Capitalism is way up. All right, Americans are overwhelmingly capitalistic. But socialism is way, way down. And the Democratic Socialists of America organization itself is sitting at negative 21. And when they asked about straight up communism, of course, negative 73. 5% favorable, 78% unfavorable. So that's not a coalition. That's a going out of business sale. This is what James Carville is screeching about. Rasmussen's Neapolitan News poll backs this up. 49% unfavorable to socialism versus just 31% favorable. And pollster Scott Rasmussen made an important point there. He said these numbers have basically remained unchanged over the last 5 to 10 years, despite all the media hype about Zoran Mamdani and these DSA candidates winning primaries. In other words, the median political class think socialism is surging because they want it to surge. But the actual voters, especially the ones who don't obsess over politics every single day, they haven't moved an inch. They don't like socialism. Even Fox News polling found that while 1 in 3 Democrats identified explicitly as socialists, 61% of Americans opposed to the country shifting toward socialism. And among Republicans, that number, of course, jumps to a whopping 80%. Thankfully, the vast majority of the country is rejecting this nonsense, as they ought. These radical socialists are parasites. They don't build anything. They defy basic economics rather than simply tap into it. Actually to build wealth rather than redistribute it through their own coffers, of course. That's why it's so much better to learn how to genuinely build wealth rather than despise it. So, for example, you want to take a guess as to where the big banks right now are quietly putting their money when the markets get shaky? Not stocks, not bonds, not crypto. Every single year, institutions like Wells Fargo and Chase quietly buy up roughly 90% of something most Americans have never even heard of. They're called tax liens, created by government statute, secured by real American property. And here's the part that got my attention. The returns are not set by Wall Street, and they're certainly not set by the Fed. The returns are actually set by law. Now, the big banks would love to keep this wealth secret to themselves, but here's what they can't hide. This isn't just for institutions. Everyday Americans can do the exact same thing, and you can get started with as little as $50. You heard that right. You can get started with as little as $50. A friend of mine named Jay has been doing this for years and teaching regular, hardworking folks how to do it too. So on Wednesday, August 12th, at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, Jay is hosting a free live masterclass, and he's going to buy a real tax lien live right in front of you, right there on the video call, start to finish, nothing hidden, to show you exactly how you can do the exact same thing. It's a quiet, steady, law-based strategy that lets hardworking patriots build real wealth on their own terms without begging the Fed, without gambling in the markets, and without handing your future to the same institutions that got us into this mess in the first place. No market timing, no complicated strategies, no tenants, no rehabs, no leverage, just a couple of spare hours a week. That's it. Now, this masterclass happens only once. It's live in real time. There's no replay of that live purchase demonstration. When it's done, it's done. So don't be the last one to find out about it. Go to turleyclass.com to lock in your spot. That's turleyclass.com, or just text Turley to 72,000. That's 72000, or even easier, scan the QR code on your screen, tap send, and you're in. Again, it's Wednesday, August 12th, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you in the masterclass.
I'm going to be voting for Houston. I've been a lifelong Democrat, and I'm 72 years old, 72-year-old white male, and I've been a Democrat my whole life. This past primary in Ohio, I went and asked for the Republican ballot, which makes me a Republican now. There's many reasons for that, but if I could just be philosophical for just a minute, and thank you again for taking my call. This chicken, this Democratic Socialist movement, this chicken has been coming home to roost for a long, long time. And you have to go back to the source of what's going on. 35 or 40 years ago, the Democrats and Republicans together decided that they were going to shovel every job that they could shovel offshore that they did. And the ones that weren't bolted down, they shipped first, and then they unbolted the rest of them and shipped the rest of them. So if you're a young person in this country, we don't make any textiles. We don't make any electronics. We don't make hardly any cars. We don't make hardly any pharmaceuticals. And so you've got a lot of young people who are seeing this wage gap. And by the way, I'm a Republican, and you're seeing this income gap. And so essentially they're fair game for this movement. They see this movement as an opportunity, if not to gain back some credibility or some life, a better life. They look at it as a way to burn the system down.
Now, that was brilliant. That was one of the most articulate breakdowns of what's happening inside the Democrat Party that you're going to hear from an ordinary voter. This is the chickens coming home to roost. This is the consequence of decades of Democrats and, as he pointed out, and Republicans together shipping American jobs overseas. Textiles gone, electronics gone, cars gone, pharmaceuticals gone. And with those jobs disappearing, a path to a better life also disappeared. So particularly young people are getting swept up by the Democratic Socialists of America because it looks like their only option is to basically burn the system down since it's no longer working for them. And you could be assured that's exactly what the DSA wants to do. Now, that's a stunningly honest admission from a lifelong Democrat. And it tracks exactly with what these polls are showing us. This isn't some Republican talking point. This is a 72-year-old man watching his own party get hijacked in real time by a charlatan movement that's basically bewitching his former party precisely because of the globalist anti-manufacturing policies that both parties pursued for decades. Now, the Republicans have gone through their post-globalist realignment. They've embraced nationalist populism as the way forward, or what's often referred to as civilizational populism, defending our border sovereignty, bringing manufacturing back home, celebrating rather than denigrating our unique cultures, customs, and traditions. The Democrats are going through their own post-globalist realignment, but unfortunately, it's one that's combining their penchant for collectivism and economic centralization together with their descent into cancel culture wokeness. So what we're seeing in the Republican Party is the best of what the party has to offer: nationalism, populism, traditionalism that appeals to upwards of 60% of the population. But what we're seeing emerge in the Democrat Party is the worst they have to offer: progressivism, socialism, and wokeness. And the irony here is that caller from Ohio, that lifelong Democrat who just switched parties, he's a microcosm of his own state, right? He's calling from a state, Ohio, that used to consider voting for Democrats. Ohio was your classic purple swing state. They voted twice for Bush, twice for Obama. Those days are gone. Ohio is consolidated into a solid red state, voting Republican by double-digit margins. They have a Republican supermajority in their legislature. The post-globalist consensus is clearly nationalist populist, not progressive socialist. And to the extent that the Democrats continue to double down on this, they are going to fulfill the fears and the warnings of their more centrist traditionalist wing. And they're going to take their place on the ash heap of history. If today's video raised more questions than answers, I go deeper in my new book, Civcosm: Theopolitics, Technopolitics, Astropolitics, three forces converging into one word that didn't exist until now. Order your copy at civcosm.com.